For about $1, you can buy a common powder or liquid from the cleaning aisle of a hardware store that does something most expensive rust primers never truly accomplish. It does not merely cover corrosion, it converts rust into protection. At the molecular level, phosphoric acid reacts with iron oxide and transforms that unstable corrosion into iron phosphate, a dark, hard, crystalline layer bonded directly to the steel beneath it. The rust is not removed, it is not washed away, it is transformed into armor. That idea sounds almost too efficient to be true, yet governments, shipyards and wartime factories trusted it on weapons vehicles and naval hardware for decades. So why do most homeowners and even many contractors barely hear about it today? Because a treatment that works once and lasts for years is bad for an industry built on repainting, recoating and repeat sales. This is the story of a phosphoric conversion chemistry, the cheap treatment, ancient craftsmen discovered, militaries scaled, and modern markets quietly pushed out of sight. What follows is history, chemistry, economics, and practical method. Long before patents, defense contracts, or industrial chemistry, people who worked with iron were already noticing the same strange pattern. In the Roman world, blacksmiths found that iron tools exposed to acidic tanning vats often came back darker and seemed to resist corrosion longer than untreated metal in the same workshop. They could not explain the reaction, but they could see the result. Darkened iron survived where bright iron failed. Centuries later, and far from Rome, ironworking cultures in West Africa reached a similar conclusion through different materials and traditions. After forging blades and agricultural tools, some smiths treated the metal with acidic plant washes made from fermented bark fruit pulp and roots. Those solutions darkened the surface and left behind a more durable finish. The chemistry was unknown to them, but the practical outcome was obvious enough to repeat. In feudal Japan, swordsmiths used acidic clay slurries during the final stages of the blade treatment. In parts of Persia, metalworkers noticed that iron exposed to certain mineral springs emerged darker and seemed to resist rust longer than comparable tools stored dry. These discoveries were separated by oceans, languages, and centuries, yet they pointed to the same underlying reaction. No shared textbook connected them, no laboratory guided them. They arrived at the same answer through observation alone. When iron met certain acidic phosphate-rich environments, corrosion could be slowed by transforming the surface itself. That was not folklore. It was chemistry, discovered independently by civilizations paying close attention to the material. The modern story begins when scattered craft knowledge turned into documented industrial method. In 1869, William Alexander Ross of England filed one of the first formal patents describing a phosphating process for iron and steel. What had once been an observed effect in workshops and forges now entered the world of repeatable chemistry, written down, tested, and claimed as a practical technology. The process advanced quickly in the early 20th century. In Birmingham, Thomas Watts Coslett improved the method and patented a more defined iron phosphating treatment based on phosphoric acid. A few years later, American inventor Frank Rupert Granville Richards expanded that foundation by developing a manganese phosphating process that produced a darker, tougher coating with better oil retention. That mattered because a surface that could both resist corrosion and hold lubricant had enormous value for machines, tools, and weapons. Then came Clark W. Parker, a businessman in Detroit, who saw that this chemistry was more than a scientific curiosity. He acquired the rights to key phosphating patents and with his son Wyman founded the Parker Rust-Proof Phosphating Company of America in 1915. Under Parker's leadership, phosphating became a real industrial service. Engineers refined bed temperatures, shortened treatment times, and improved consistency, making the process faster and cheaper. But there was one problem. Manganese was relatively expensive and strategically vulnerable as a supply material. That pushed the industry toward the zinc-based phosphate systems. Zinc was cheaper, more abundant, and far better suited to the demands of large-scale manufacturing. By the late 1930s and early 1940s, the chemistry had evolved into something ready for wartime expansion. That wartime expansion arrived with full force during World War II. Once the United States realized how effective phosphate conversion coatings were, the process moved from useful industry practice to strategic military standard. Nowhere was that scale more visible than at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, one of the great production centers of the American war effort. During the war years, the yard employed tens of thousands of workers, operating around the clock, launching new warships, converting existing vessels, and repairing damaged fleets at a pace no peacetime industry would have attempted. In that environment, corrosion protection was not a cosmetic concern. It was a logistical necessity. Salt water, marine humidity, tropical heat, desert sand, and freezing cold all attack exposed steel in different ways, but each can shorten the life of equipment and raise maintenance costs dramatically. The military needed a treatment that was cheap, fast, durable, and effective, even when surface preparation in the field was far from perfect. Phosphate conversion coatings matched those needs almost perfectly. The process known widely as parkerizing was applied to rifles, pistols, machine gun mounts, vehicle parts, aircraft fittings, and naval hardware. M1 Garand's 1911 pistols, carbine components, suspension, parts, deck fittings, hinges, and countless steel assemblies received manganese or zinc phosphate treatments under military specifications. These coatings did more than reduce rust. Their microporous structure also held oils and protective compounds, increasing durability in moving parts exposed to hard conditions. That combination of low cost and high performance gave phosphate treatment real strategic value. It saved materials, reduced maintenance, simplified production, and extended service life across a massive range of equipment. This was not a fringe experiment or a niche workshop trick. It became embedded in military manufacturing because it worked on the scale that war demanded. And even after the war ended, the military never truly abandoned it. If phosphate conversion coatings proved themselves in military use, why did they never become common knowledge in the civilian market? The answer is not that the method failed. The answer is that it fit badly inside a business model built on repeat sales. After World War II, military specifications for phosphate conversion remained active and continued to evolve, which means the process never vanished from serious industrial use. But the civilian coatings market followed a different logic. Modern paint and coatings companies generate enormous revenue from products that must be bought again and again. Primers degrade, rust sprays wear off, protective paints chalk, peel, bubble, and fail under sunlight, moisture, temperature shifts, and abrasion. Every failure creates another purchase, another service call, another maintenance cycle. The industry depends on impermanence because impermanence keeps customers returning. Phosphoric acid conversion works differently. It does not create a fragile outer film that eventually lifts away from the surface. It transforms the rust itself into a stable crystalline barrier, chemically bonded to the steel. That means no easy cycle of planned reapplication, no premium recurring treatment schedule, and little room for a company to build a giant brand around a cheap common chemical that cannot be exclusively owned. That economic problem matters. Phosphoric acid is inexpensive, widely available, and difficult to monopolize. Without exclusivity, there is no large profit margin. Without large margins, there is less advertising, less shelf dominance, fewer training programs for contractors, and less incentive to fund testing, certification code approvals, and lobbying. So the chemistry was not necessarily disproven or outlawed. It was simply crowded out by systems that were more profitable to sell repeatedly. In other words, the civilian market did not reject a worse solution. It rewarded a more lucrative one. And that difference explains why so few people are ever taught the cheaper option. Here is what makes the process so powerful at the molecular level. Rust is primarily iron oxide, a porous and unstable material that allows moisture and oxygen to keep attacking the metal beneath it. Paint can hide that damage for a while, but paint remains an external layer. Once that layer cracks or loses adhesion, corrosion resumes underneath. Phosphoric acid changes the situation completely. When it contacts iron oxide, it reacts with that rust and forms iron phosphate along with water. In simple terms, the weak, flaky corrosion product is replaced by a denser, darker, more stable crystalline structure bonded directly to the steel surface. This is why the treatment behaves so differently from ordinary coatings. It is not simply covering the problem. It is chemically converting the problem into something more useful. That conversion creates a hard micro-textured surface that resists further corrosion and can also provide an excellent base for oil wax, primer or paint. Instead of placing a vulnerable film on top of damaged steel, the process transforms the existing oxide layer into a protective barrier integrated with the metal itself. That difference is everything. The simplest way to say it is, this paint sits on rust, but phosphoric acid changes rust into another material. The corrosion is no longer just the disease. Through chemical conversion, it becomes part of the cure. If you want to use this method in practice, the process is straightforward. First, source the material. At most hardware stores, phosphoric acid appears in the cleaning aisle or in the masonry and concrete section, often sold as a rust converter or concrete etcher. The exact branding may vary, but the important thing is the active ingredient and the usable concentration. Next comes preparation. Remove loose, flaky rust with a wire brush or stiff bristle brush, but do not grind everything back to bright bare metal unless the surface is severely scaled. This treatment works by reacting with existing rust, so tightly bonded surface corrosion is not the enemy. In this case, it is part of the raw material. Apply the solution with a foam brush, rag or pump sprayer in a thin, even coat. Keep the surface wet while the reaction takes place. As the chemistry works, the bright orange-brown rust will begin to darken, often shifting through gray tones before turning deep blue, black or charcoal. That color change is the visible sign that iron oxide is being converted into iron phosphate. After the first application, let the surface sit undisturbed so the crystalline structure can fully develop. Then apply a second coat. The second pass helps reach deeper pit seams and hidden pockets of corrosion, making the converted layer denser and more complete. Once cured, the surface can be left as is or covered with paint, primer, oil or wax. The converted layer already provides meaningful protection, and its micro-texture also gives later finishes a better surface to grip. The cost is low, the method is simple, and the result can last far longer than many temporary rust sprays. Basic safety still matters. Wear gloves, protect your eyes, ventilate the area, and follow the product label carefully. Phosphoric acid conversion was never truly lost. The chemistry remained in patents, military standards, industrial practice, and old treated steel that still survives as proof. What disappeared was public awareness. Over time, the method was buried beneath marketing, proprietary branding, and a marketplace that profits more from coatings that fail than from treatments that endure. Now the full picture is back on the table. You have the history of how multiple civilizations discovered the same effect through observation. You have the industrial timeline that turned a practical reaction into a patented process. You have the wartime proof that the method scaled across weapons, ships, vehicles, and equipment. And you have the chemistry itself, rust transformed into a stable protective layer instead of endlessly painted over. Most important, you now have a principle that reaches beyond corrosion. Useful knowledge does not always disappear because it stops working. Sometimes it disappears because it stops making enough money for the people who control attention. But buried is not destroyed. Buried is only waiting to be uncovered again.